Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As always, thank you very much for being here. I would also introduce State Attorney Bill Edens, who is with us today, and also Ashley and Blue Markham, who, again, Ashley is the matriarch of the Billings family now. Sadly, her father and mother are the ones that met this tragedy. I have just a few opening statements I'd like to make before we get into the meat of asking you here today. Last Thursday, July the 9th, a tragedy occurred in Escambia County with the murder of Byrd and Melanie Billings, where we as a society, and specifically Escambia County, witnessed the worst in man: hatefulness, cruelty, and indecency. But in the last 5 days, as the sheriff of Escambia County, I have had the honor, as the sheriff of this fine organization, to witness the best in man: compassion, kindness, integrity, and professionalism. Last Thursday, after this tragedy, we asked Melanie and her husband, members of her family, to come to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office one day after this tragedy. And I'm sure, Ashley, you may recall standing in the lobby of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office while you feel very helpless at that moment. I asked you if there was anything that I could do for you. And your response back to me was, "Sheriff, find the people who did this." It is my honor today to tell you, Ashley, and your family, we have found them, and they are in custody. We will be passing out to the press the following package. 7 individuals are currently in custody related to the murders of Byrd and Melanie Billings. You will note one photograph is absent. The reason for this is this individual is a 16-year-old juvenile. And the last thing I want to do before I turn it over to Mr. Edens is to give credit where credit is due. If you have a point in your life where you have a moment that you can stand and serve with people of greatness, you are truly blessed. I had that opportunity during my military career on more than one occasion. And I can tell you, in the last 5 days, I have stood in the presence of greatness at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. And I would be remiss in not recognizing personally the men and women that in 5 days have brought this case to its conclusion. And I would ask that you direct your attention to this side of the room. Commanding our investigative unit is Captain Bruce Wood. Our case manager was Sergeant Rusty Horde. Sergeant Buddy Neesmith. Investigator Tom Watts. Investigator Tim Hardy. Investigator Chris Baggett. Investigator Bobby Guy. Investigator Zach Ward. Investigator Lee Thyree. Investigator Tamara Barber. Also, our crime scene unit and their work in this case. I also must recognize our intelligence analyst who worked around the clock with our investigators, Miss Brianna Hammond. And additionally, we had close coordination with Mr. Edens' office and all of the attorneys there, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and specifically members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation headed by Special Agent Stewart, members of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Special Agent Beach, and the Department of Drug Enforcement with Special Agent Jacobus. At that time, I will conclude my remarks until your questions, and I will turn the podium over to Mr. Bill Edens.
As you know, I'm state attorney in this area, and in a major investigation such as this, it is important that law enforcement and the district attorney or state attorney's office work closely together. In this case, that occurred, and I would like to personally thank the sheriff and the members of his team who worked with my office. We had several people in my office that personally came out to the sheriff's office and worked, and I can assure you the second thing that's unusual in some ways about this is the vast number of resources that the sheriff allocated to this situation. You saw and you've heard him list some of them. In addition to that, those resources were very effective because they did really work around the clock. They didn't quit, and I think that is a feature of this investigation that is unusual in some regards. It certainly is very appropriate to honor those people. And again, in closing, I'd just like to say that I share the sheriff's sorrow, as this community does, to this family, and I'm hopeful that the matter is concluded now, and hopefully they will be able to move forward, although I realize how difficult that must be.
At this time, we'll take your questions.
Sure. Can you talk about a little bit about the connection these suspects had with the family? People want to know why that family was targeted.
Again, we have a small amount of business ties, some friendships, but no direct tie that we can, at this time, confirm between the members here that are charged with this crime and the Billings family.
Did they do day labor work there? Were they working on the property?
There were occasions where Mr. Gonzalez Sr., who had a pressure washing business, there was a few occasions that Wayne Cold Iron worked for him. I think we've been able to confirm that he was at the property at least maybe one time. But again, where you would think to look for a long-term relationship where property could, be under surveillance by those wanting to come and do harm, we've yet to confirm that.
Sure. The state attorney said just a moment ago that we hope this matter is concluded. Do you feel this matter is concluded, or is there another layer now to look at now that you have the people who are on the property?
There are some loops that need to be closed, some follow-on investigations. We have at least one individual that we are specifically looking for at this time, or at, I should say, excuse me, not for, at. And there may be others, but at this time we only have one identified.
And to follow, what's the reason that federal investigators might be involved? I know you said that they have been. Is there a reason beyond the current 7, or is there something else that they are involved with?
There are elements of this case that go outside of the state of Florida, which I will not speak to. And the reason being is that we had a meeting yesterday with the federal agencies, and we passed along to them the information that had been developed during this case. And so now it's within their purview to investigate this case. If it's within the confines of Escambia County, of course, we will be involved. On a routine basis, video enhancement, we use the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, ballistics, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, anything involving, again, members of this group that may have been involved with drug activity. We would, of course, coordinate with our narcotics division and the Drug Enforcement Agency. So they were involved from those perspectives. Again, anything that we developed outside the confines of the state of Florida have been turned over to those agencies.
Were these men hired to kill? Were these men hired to kill the Billings?
We have no knowledge of that.
You talked about motive and motives yesterday. You said that there was one motive or more than one motive. Can you talk about the other motive besides robbery now?
You've moved into the prosecutorial area, and I'll defer that question to Mr. Edmonds.
I think the safest, easiest, clearest thing to say that the primary motive in this case is robbery. Home invasion, robbery.
Do you know if money, jewelry, valuables, what was taken?
Pardon me?
What did they rob from there? Can you say at this point?
Well, they did take items that you would normally expect to be taken in a robbery.
Money.